Now, how addicted are you to social media? If you've ever picked up a phone when a notification has popped up, or maybe you just checked your mail while hanging out with your friends. If you've ever felt that your phone is like the third wheel of your life, always there and always making you click those photos of your food and showing your best life, whether it's Instagram or any other social media app, well, you're not alone. And if you think just alcohol and smoking are addictions, well, according to a research in the University of Michigan, an estimated of 210 million people worldwide suffer from addiction to social media and the internet. And today I'm going to talk about just that. So, how do you be in control of your life and break free from this social media addiction? I've done that and I can show you some methods that you can follow too. But firstly, why is it addictive? Well, it all starts with something called as the endless scrolling syndrome. You know that feeling when you start scrolling through the social media app and suddenly you realize that it's a never ending adventure of memes, pictures, and even posts. And suddenly you're scrolling from one post to another, and before you've even realized, hours have passed. And now you're left wondering that how did time fly by? That's the infinite scroll at play. It's like a treasure chest of content that keeps getting refilled, making it really hard for you to put your phone down. And this infinite scroll is designed to keep you scrolling non-stop. So that endless scroll is just a cunning trick that is created by the social media platforms to keep you engaged indefinitely. Now, what makes this endless scrolling so addictive? It's the dopamine. That is your brain's pleasure chemical. So every swipe, every new post, every like triggers a little hit of dopamine, creating this whole loop of instant gratification. It's a brain's way of saying that, hey, that's a pretty cool thing that I just saw. And social media is a pro when it comes to triggering this feel good hormone. So whether it's a meme or just a dog video, your brain is releasing a burst of dopamine, making you crave for more of those positive vibes. And when you scroll through those posts, your brain hopes that the next post is even better, and that anticipation is a reward in itself. And you find yourself unable to break that cycle. And social media is built to give you a lot of these happy moments or a surprise every time you scroll. That's why it feels so good and you want to keep going. Now, when you're in a situation like this, what can you do? Number one is that you have to consciously take decisions. Make sure you designate specific time slots in your day for the use of social media. This will not only help you set limits, but it will also help you just use the app very consciously. And as you're designating time slots, designate also areas where you can use these apps and where you cannot. For example, most people use their social media apps on the bed. But I would say to not use any social media apps or your phone on the bed is because your brain associates the bed with sleep. But now, since you keep scrolling on social media, your brain will start associating the bed with usage of your phone. And that's one of the reasons why many people have trouble falling asleep. And when you designate certain areas to be off limits, the absence of your phone in your hand automatically breaks that whole cycle of scrolling. Another example is if you're at your desk, at your workplace, and you have to focus, try to keep your phone somewhere which is not in your reach so that you won't distract yourself with the constant notification. But if your work requires you to pick up calls and you need to use your phone, then make sure that half of your apps are off limits or they are set off limits to use. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, both have features to help you with that. So utilize those features and restrict that daily screen time. And even I face this a lot, so I keep a timer on certain apps. And when the timer comes on, the app notifies me that my time is up. And even with me, when it came to scrolling, it would just go into this whole rabbit hole where I would just continuously scroll and not even know what time it is. And after I decided to set a time limit on these apps, now whenever my timer goes off, it's my cue to exit this whole scrolling adventure and get back to reality. Now, when you've been on this social media app, you must have shared a post or shared a thought or even a comment for that matter, and suddenly you see these whole notifications flooding in with all the likes and comments and even a share. That little red heart or that thumbs up just becomes a dopamine jackpot for your brain. It floods our system, creating a whole pleasure loop. And that's what makes you keep coming back for more. Plus, the pleasure isn't about the chemical hit, it's about social validation, which people are really looking for when it comes to social media. That is the acknowledgement or approval of your peers or friends or whoever. And that makes you feel socially accepted. And this craving for social validation is not just now, but it is deeply rooted in our evolutionary history, where social acceptance was considered as survival. And social media taps into that primal need, creating this whole virtual stage where each like, each comment, and even a share just becomes a round of applause and more of a celebration. But overstimulation of dopamine may lead to downregulation of dopamine receptors, which means that your brain becomes is less responsive to normal dopamine levels. Now, what can you do to avoid these constant dopamine hits? Is to shift your focus from quantity of likes to quality of interactions. Value meaningful connections over just numbers. And constantly checking for likes will intensify that whole dopamine loop, making you want to check the app again and again and again, and you know how it feels like. And what you can do is try out a range of interests out of social media. This will help you broaden your sources of fulfillment and it will reduce your dependency on virtual validation. So, write something, paint, go out, or even play some sports with your friends. Do a workout that you've been dealing forever, or maybe just go for a walk. So, explore all these hobbies that do not involve screens. And there are many more, like reading a book, or playing an instrument, or even sketching. So, diversify your leisure time rather than just spending time on screens. And exploring interests like this will be more rewarding than you spending time on your screens. But just in case you're at your workplace and you're falling for this whole intense viewing, here's what you can do. Use the Pomodoro technique. Basically, you do a 25 minutes of focused work and then you take a break of around 10 minutes. And after that, you go back into a deep focus of 25 minutes again. And if you're in situations that's not your workplace, give yourself some challenges like I'll pick up my phone only after I finish cleaning or after I finish doing the laundry or doing any specific activity. And if you feel like you're getting too many dopamine hits and it's also triggering into anxiety, try to go on a digital detox. There are many ways to do it, and one is to discipline yourself on how many hours or how much time you're going to use the app in a day. For example, I'll use it at lunch and maybe dinner, or maybe I'll just use it once a day in the evening for about 1 hour. And some who want to go on the other extreme can also go for a few days without just using the app. Now, what this does is it allows your brain to take a break and recalibrate, reducing that intense dopamine response. Now, this is one thing that's very common in some and more serious in others. Let's say your friends are out and they're having a great time and you're at home scrolling through their posts. And suddenly FOMO kicks in. That whole irrational fear that everyone's living their best life except you. But what you don't understand is that social media intensifies this fear by showcasing those curated highlight reels of others' lives and experiences, making it seem very glamorous. And this creates a cycle of comparison and anxiety. And that whole feeling of FOMO, what you go through is our innate desire for social connection and inclusion. And you can't deny it, but we humans are social beings. So whether you're introverted or extroverted, we want to connect. And as social beings, we want to be a part of that action. But what social media does is it magnifies this instinct by presenting a constant stream of exciting events, parties, and gatherings, making it very easy to feel left out. So it magnifies this whole feeling of FOMO or the fear of missing out. And it also makes you feel these negative emotions that shouldn't be there in the first place. But you know what it feels like, and I think we've all been there. How do you fight something like a FOMO? Well, FOMO often focuses on what you lack. One thing that you can regularly practice is the feeling of gratitude. It just helps you shift your mindset and helps you acknowledge all the positive aspects of your life, and also helps you figure out and find out ways to be happy and satisfied with what you have rather than always wanting more. It helps you appreciate and feel good about things that are in your life right now instead of constantly wishing for something else or comparing your life with someone else. So just remind yourself that what you see on social media is just a glamorized version or just a highlighted reel and not the full story. And because FOMO always thrives on the illusion of constant connection, which means that the more you feel, the more you'll virtually connect. So prioritize your in-person interactions and strengthen your real-world connections. And the more real-world connections you have, which is those offline experiences and those quality experiences with your family and friends, it will end the impact of FOMO. There is something that you can also incorporate, which is turn FOMO into JOMO. Embrace the idea of fully missing out one event to enjoy another. And JOMO, or the joy of missing out, it helps you celebrate the freedom of choosing things what bring you joy. And this whole feeling of FOMO is very real, but so is your power to overcome it. So understand the psychology behind FOMO and try to implement these strategies. Now, this is what I feel is one of the most brilliant invention to keep you completely distracted, and that is your notification center. Even if you're having an intense conversation with your friend, or even if you're doing something very important and suddenly you hear that notification sound, it just switches your mind from whatever you were doing and makes you go and check your phone. Because your phone lights up, there is a red badge, a ding, and a vibration. And when you check, your notifications are flooding in. And each of them are waiting for your attention. When you see a notification and that red badge, or even the sound for that matter, it triggers a psychological response of urgency and curiosity, making you respond to that notification quickly so that you get that quick hit of satisfaction. And it makes your brain think and associate every notification with something being very important, so you need to check it quickly. Now, smartphones have become pros with it. Whether we realize or not, we are very conditioned to reply or respond instantly. And since notifications create unnecessary distractions, customize your entire notification setting. Turn off all alerts to regain entire control over your attention. And the notifications that are essential, you can keep them turned on. Apart from that, notifications are also known to kill productivity. Set a focus schedule on your phone where these notifications will appear but they won't disturb you. This way, you're more in control rather than being reactive. And checking notifications can also constantly become a habit. Consciously pause before checking each notification and ask yourself that is it urgent or can it wait? Now, we live in a world where every post just seems like wow. From dream vacations to picture perfect meals. And it's very easy to feel like you're falling short. This is social comparison syndrome. It's the tendency to measure our worth based on others. In fact, last week, I saw a friend of mine who posted some vacation pictures. Instead of appreciating the whole adventure, I couldn't help but compare it to my less exciting week. And if you've been there, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and even impact your self esteem. And every scroll becomes a yardstick. And then you feel like you're on a never ending quest to measure up. And many a times you start doubting your own achievements after you've seen maybe a friend or a colleague who's achieved a lot of milestones, personally or professionally. It feels like your accomplishments have just lost its shine. That's what social media indirectly somewhere does to us. Instead of embracing your uniqueness, it makes you somewhere compare yourself with others. And this whole comparison often leads to a very vicious cycle. You see someone's success, you compare it with yourself, then you feel a bit of jealousy, and then you feel guilty of feeling that way. Breaking this cycle is very important for building a healthy relationship with social media. So start curating your social media very mindfully. Unfollow accounts that trigger negative emotions or make you feel less than someone else, and follow those who inspire and uplift you instead. So even the time that you're using your social media, it keeps you inspired. Some things you can also do is share your intention of not wanting to use social media with your friends and family. Having a support system like this will help you stick to your goals. One thing you can also do is set some goals for yourself. They can be big goals, mini goals, anything. Maybe like you would want to journal every day. Or maybe just play with your dogs or any other achievable goals for yourself. And these small wins that you'll achieve will add up over time. And just remember that everyone's journey is different. And setting these goals and doing smaller achievable goals will help you stay away from social media. Know that you're human, so treat yourself with the same kindness that you would treat your friend. And remember things like social media, yes, it is a blessing because it connects you virtually, but it disconnects you from the real world and the reality we live in. And half of your problems like your FOMO, social validation, and even your anxiety will all end if you control social media than letting social media control you. And what I've mentioned are simple and easy things to do, but it is very difficult to follow because you will be constantly battling this conversation with your brain. But if you want things to get easy in your life, you have to go through the hard things first. Now, what tricks do you use to fight this social media addiction? Let me know in the comments, and if you like what you saw, then feel free to check out any other video on this channel. And until we meet again next, don't stress and be awesome. Russia that.